Ever wondered how secure your food supply really is? A question that's been resonating through the minds of many, more so now than ever before. As we sit down to our meals, seldom do we ponder the journey that our food takes to land on our plates, or the fragility of that journey. Food security, an aspect of our lives we often take for granted, is under threat. We're witnessing meat shortages, skyrocketing food prices, and supply chain issues that are more than just buzzwords on the evening news. These are realities that affect us all, preppers and non-preppers alike. In the world of prepping, the term food security takes on a whole new meaning. It's about ensuring that you have access to food regardless of external circumstances. It's about taking control of your food supply and being prepared for whatever lies ahead. It's about being proactive rather than reactive. Think of it this way. Imagine a future where meat becomes a scarce commodity. Imagine walking into a grocery store only to find the meat section empty or the prices tripled. It's a sobering thought. But it's a potential reality we could face with the ongoing issues in our food supply chains. The question then becomes, how do we navigate these challenges? The answer lies in prepping, more specifically in learning and applying prepping skills like canning. Canning, a method of preservation that dates back to the 18th century, allows us to store food, particularly meat, for long periods without refrigeration. This skill could be the game changer in ensuring your food security, allowing you to buy meat now and store it for years to come. This isn't just about survivalism, it's about being smart and forward-thinking. It's about ensuring that no matter what happens, you're not left wondering where your next meal will come from. Remember, we're not just talking about a worst-case scenario here. These are real issues that are happening right now, and they affect everyone. The time to learn how to be self-reliant is now. The time to buy food and stockpile food is now. The time to learn how to can meat long-term is now. Because in the world of prepping, the best time to start is always yesterday. But the second best time, it's right now. Now let's talk about buying meat for canning. This isn't just about grabbing any old piece of meat off the shelf. No, siree. It's about knowing which meats are best for canning and how to ensure you're getting the highest quality possible. When it comes to canning, not all meats are created equal. Lean meats such as chicken, turkey, and lean cuts of pork and beef are ideal. These meats can well and retain their flavor and texture during the canning process. Fatty or processed meats, on the other hand, may not hold up as well. Quality is key when buying meat for canning. Look for fresh, high-quality cuts. Check the color and smell. Fresh meat should be bright and have a clean, not overly strong smell. Anything that looks dull or has a strong, unpleasant odor should be avoided. Now, storage before canning is also crucial. If you can't can your meat immediately after purchasing, store it in the refrigerator or freezer. This will keep it fresh until you're ready to can. Remember, you're not just preserving meat, you're preserving its quality. Buying in bulk can be a smart move, especially in these uncertain times. Not only does it save money, but it also ensures a steady supply of food. Plus, canning allows you to store meat long-term without the need for refrigeration. Let me emphasize this point. Buy meat now while it's still available and affordable. With the current state of the world, we're seeing empty shelves, skyrocketing prices, and supply chain issues. The meat you buy today could be the meal you eat next week, next month, or even next year. So whether you're a seasoned prepper or you're just getting started, the time to act is now. Stock up on high-quality lean meats. Store them properly until you're ready to can. Learn the art of canning and make it a part of your routine. Remember, the meat you buy today could be the meal you eat a year from now. So you've got your meat. Now how do you can it? Canning meat is not rocket science, but it does require some attention to detail and a little bit of time. The first thing you'll need is a pressure canner. This is different from a pressure cooker, so make sure you get the right one. The reason we use a pressure canner is because it can reach higher temperatures than a boiling water bath, which is necessary to safely preserve meat. Next, you'll need jars. Mason jars are the most commonly used. You'll also need lids and bands for the jars. Remember, lids can only be used once, but the jars and bands can be reused. Before we start, let's make sure everything is clean. Wash your jars, lids, and bands in hot soapy water and rinse them thoroughly. You don't need to sterilize the jars for this process. because the high heat of the pressure canning will do that for us. Now let's get to the meat. You can can any type of meat, beef, pork, chicken, or even fish. You can choose to either raw pack or hot pack your meat. Raw packing is when you pack the meat into the jars raw, and hot packing is when you cook the meat slightly before packing it into the jars. Both methods work, but hot packing can help to remove some of the fat, which can extend the shelf life of your canned meat. Let's say we're going to raw pack our meat. Cut your meat into chunks, removing any excess fat. Pack the meat into your jars, leaving about 1 inch of head space. That's the space between the top of the meat and the top of the jar. Don't add any liquid. The meat will produce its own juices. Once your jars are packed, wipe the rims with a clean, damp cloth to remove any residue. Place a lid on each jar and screw on the band until it's finger tight. You don't want to over-tighten it. Now it's time to process the jars in the pressure canner. Place the jars on the rack in the canner and add water according to the manufacturer's instructions. Close the lid securely and place the canner on high heat. Allow the canner to vent for about 10 minutes, then place the weight on the vent pipe. Process pint jars for 75 minutes and quart jars for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. If you live at a high altitude, you may need to adjust the pressure accordingly. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions for your specific pressure canner. When the processing time is up, turn off the heat and let the canner cool down naturally. Don't try to speed up the process by removing the weight or opening the vent. This could cause the jars to break. Once the canner is completely cool, remove the jars using a jar lifter and place them on a towel or a wooden board to cool. Don't touch or bump the jars while they're cooling. After 24 hours, check the seals. The lid should be sucked down and not flex when you press on them. If a jar didn't seal, don't worry. You can reprocess it within 24 hours or refrigerate it and use it soon. And there you have it. Canned meat that can last up to 15 years without refrigeration. Store your canned meat in a cool, dark place for best results. And remember, always inspect the jar before using. If the lid is bulging or the food smells off, don't risk it. It's better to be safe than sorry. Happy canning. Now you know how to can meat. But why should you start now? Well, let's take a moment to look around us. The current state of our world is filled with unpredictability. Food supply issues have started cropping up, with meat shortages becoming an all-too-real concern. And these aren't just fleeting issues. With supply chain disruptions and rising inflation, the cost of groceries is already through the roof and it's only expected to rise. But you know what? We can turn these challenges into opportunities. When we talk about prepping, we're not just talking about survival. We're talking about peace of mind, about knowing that no matter what happens, you've got a plan. You've got a stockpile of food that can last you and your loved ones for years. Now consider the financial aspect. Prices are going up, that's a given. But if you start canning and preserving meat now, you're essentially buying at today's prices and eating at tomorrow's. You're locking in the current cost of meat, which is likely much lower than it will be in the future. The beauty of canning is that it allows you to preserve food without refrigeration. This means you can store it for long periods, even years. The USDA recommends canned meat storage for 1 year, but it's not uncommon for properly canned meat to last up to 15 years. So let's not wait for a crisis to hit before we start prepping. Let's not wait until the shelves are empty and the prices have tripled. Start now. Start learning, start buying, start canning. Remember, prepping is not about fear, it's about readiness. It's about being proactive rather than reactive. It's about taking control of your food supply and, by extension, your future. The time to take action is now. Don't wait until the shelves are empty. Start prepping now and secure your food supply for the future.